The report might not have been quite so graphic in its language, but we did point out that the withdrawal of the US troops would mean that the UK and other non-US NATO allies were likely also to pull out, noting that the end of its non-NATO mission is likely to result in the security situation deteriorating. And we explicitly invited the government to comment on that. The government's response at the time was to say, yes, this is the sort of issue that it's a challenge we have to face, and we don't yet know what the Biden government is going to do. 7 months on, they'd had plenty of time to think about it.
So when you heard the Foreign Secretary, Baroness Smith, this week saying no one saw this coming, no one could have predicted this outcome, what did you feel?
I've had so many people making contact this week saying we knew what was happening on the ground, and that is one of the things that's most heartbreaking. The fact that the Foreign Secretary seems not to have understood the gravity of the situation is absolutely extraordinary. And in our report back in January, we were absolutely clear that there were very real dangers linked to the American withdrawal. And we had said that there should be a pause in troop withdrawal. The government clearly took no notice, waiting to take a lead from the United States.
Yeah, and when we've heard from the US president in the last day saying that before he made the decision, he spoke to all allies, they met, and they agreed we should all be getting out. And he also said the UK and allies had a choice to remain. When we heard the Prime Minister speaking in the House of Commons this week and other MPs, the finger was firmly being pointed at Joe Biden. This is his fault. There was nothing we could do about it. Is that true?
I think once the United States decided to pull out, it was very difficult for the UK and other NATO allies to remain in and have an effective force. What we needed to do was persuade Joe Biden 6-7 months ago that the US shouldn't withdraw until there was a stable settlement. And that should have included conditionality, ensuring that the Taliban, if they were to be part of the government, would respect human rights. And that so clearly isn't happening.
So those conversations did not take place?
As far as we know, those conversations did not take place. And the government's response has consistently appeared to be, we're waiting to see what the United States is going to do, rather than saying, we are telling the United States that it is vital that we remain in to secure the peace and stability of the country where we have been present for the last 20 years.
What about the planning for this post-withdrawal period? The Defence Secretary said earlier this week that the operation was always planned. It has had to be brought forward. If this was a planned operation, it's a chaotic one, isn't it?
Absolutely. There are so many people in Afghanistan who are fearing for their lives. And we've known about that for months. Again, it shouldn't have come as a surprise to the government. People have been lobbying on behalf of the interpreters, on behalf of locally engaged British Council staff, on behalf of journalists for weeks and months. And the government hasn't been listening. They haven't sought out those people whose lives are at risk at a time when they could have done so. Now in Kabul is so much harder than it would have been 3-4 weeks ago, far less 3-4 months ago.
What about the Foreign Secretary's decision to take a holiday abroad at the time of the US withdrawal? Top civil servants at the Foreign Office, the Home Office and the Ministry of Defence still on holiday, according to reports today, all adding to the feeling that we have abandoned the people of Afghanistan in their hour of need.
That's how it looks. That whatever was going through the Foreign Secretary's mind when he went on holiday, as soon as he saw how fast the cities in Afghanistan were falling, he should have been straight on a plane home. And the Prime Minister should certainly not have gone on holiday on Saturday.
Could he have made a difference if he'd picked up the phone and spoken to his Afghan counterpart? There have been those who've come out in defence of him saying that this was a crumbling government. There was nothing that could be done at the time. The Foreign Secretary has defended himself today, saying that his focus was on security at Kabul airport. But picking up the phone, making that phone call, could it have made a difference?
We can only believe that it would have made a difference. Clearly, we don't know. We can't rewrite history. But making that phone call, trying to ensure that people whose lives were at absolute risk could be got to the airport in Kabul before the Taliban got there, would have made so much difference. Telling people on Sunday, oh, well, you can now apply for the Afghan repatriation scheme, isn't sufficient. But telling them on Sunday, bring your papers, if anything, would be a death sentence as they tried to get to Kabul. It was all too late, but an earlier phone call could have made a difference.
Baroness Smith, thank you very much indeed.